Welcome, fellow cosmic explorers, to the Cosmic Chronicles Podcast, where imagination meets reality and science fiction comes to life. I'm your host, Quinn, and I'm joined by my co-host, James.
Hey there.
So, before we get to the topic of today, there's a little bit of housekeeping to do. We are still a very young podcast, so we are looking for sponsors. If you are interested in sponsoring this podcast, you can email us at cosmicchroniclespodcast@gmail.com. You can also find this podcast on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or wherever else you get your podcast. And now let's get into today's topic.
Today's topic is AI and robotics, exploring the ethics and implications of science fiction and reality. AI has been a sci-fi topic for decades, but now we are finally in a place where it is real.
So Samuel Butler's 1872 novel, Erewhon, is considered to be the first to depict machines with human-like intelligence. So that shows that we as a species have been thinking about this since at least the late 19th century. There's also an example in L. Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz, published in 1900. And you can guess that is the Tin Man. A lot of people don't think of the Tin Man that way, but on a very basic level, he is a robotic man with machine intelligence. And the Wizard of Oz in general has this, I think, proto-steampunky vibe to it that a lot of people tend to miss, and it comes out to varying degrees depending on the adaptation and the artistic depictions. But that is something that's been on our mind since at least the late 19th century. So since the late 19th century, many authors have been considering the different possible effects of machine intelligence. Sometimes machine intelligence is nice and beneficial, and often there are stories of robotic rebellions, Terminator, etc. One of the best known depictions of rebellious AI in the 20th century appeared in Stanley Kubrick's 1968 movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was an adaptation of a book of the same name. Kubrick's HAL 9000 has since become iconic. He is constantly referenced all over the place in multiple science fictions. Since then, it seems like everyone has been trying to depict the big bad AI. Frank Herbert's Dune famously provides a machine uprising as the backdrop to its immense saga with the Butlerian Jihad. But as I said, not all sci-fi depicts AI as bad. There is Star Trek, of course, with its benevolent Enterprise computer, which occasionally does cause some mischief, but mostly nothing malicious. And of course, Data, who's probably the most lovable android ever depicted in science fiction. I love Data. He's absolutely one of my favorite characters on that show and in science fiction in general. And then there is the work of Gibson, 1984's Neuromancer, which has the concept of human consciousness itself being recreated as an AI construct. And in recent years, we've seen movies like Ex Machina, Her, and most recently, Megan. And they all provide their own unique explorations of AI and its potential dangers and potential benefits. So as I mentioned earlier, AI is no longer just fiction. AI is real life. It's been utilized in fiction over the many decades since the late 1900s. But there's something very, very unique about the era that we are living in right now because it is a reality. It's not on the level of Neuromancer or thankfully Terminator yet, at least I don't think, but it is real. ChatGPT has set the world on fire in the last several months. We are now having new conversations about what art even means when AI could potentially produce an image or write a story theoretically as well as any person. AI is here, and the real-world implications of it are staggering. But should we be afraid? Or is AI something that we should embrace? Something that we have to embrace for the future of humanity, the future of our species' survival?
Okay, let's start by defining artificial intelligence. Basic definition is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages.
So that is a very basic description of AI and what it is on a very basic fundamental level. But as with most concepts in reality, the basic description doesn't give you that much. And that's the point of this podcast. Through our discussions, we're trying to understand AI, understand its potential benefits, and understand its potential drawbacks.
So what do you think the benefits of AI are?
Well, I think as it stands now on the real world, benefits of AI could potentially just be productivity. It can help us accomplish tasks that would have previously taken longer to solve. Things like sequencing genetic codes of animals and species, things like predicting weather patterns, things like predicting the migration patterns and the behavior of animals. AI is very, very useful, or it can potentially be very useful in calculating large scale things that humans would take a lot longer to figure out.
So what do you think the dangers of AI are then?
Well, I think that I tend to be more paranoid of a person, right? So when it comes to benefits of things, I can acknowledge certain benefits that it could potentially have. But when it comes to dangers of things, that's a lot louder in my mind. So mainly when it comes to dangers of AI, it's not, I think a lot of people go to the place where they think this AI is going to maliciously take over the world. This AI is going to get a hold of the nuke launch codes and just launch them for no reason, or it's going to just do horrible things with the banking system for no reason. And I don't see that as the issue, because malicious AI doesn't really have any reason to be malicious. Human beings behave and think the way that we do because of evolution, right? But if we program an AI to do a certain thing, there's no reason why it won't do the thing that we programmed it to do. The problem with AI comes with the people that build those machines. The people in power of those machines programming these AIs to do malicious things. I don't know, like subtly take money out of people's bank accounts, mess around with elections. Any malicious technological feat that humans could accomplish previously, I think AI is going to be able to do a lot easier. And I think that AI is going to be able to do a lot easier and a lot faster. So to reiterate, I think that the danger is not so much the AI itself, but the people in charge of the AI, which is very Dune-ish. I'm a huge fan of Dune. And in the first chapter of Dune, one of the things you read is, once we gave ourselves over to machines in the hope that this would set us free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave us. And I see that with AI more so than anything else.
Do you have any real-world examples of AI being used maliciously?
Well, I think AI is very, 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 very early right now. Like the things that we're seeing with stuff like ChatGPT, it's very moderated. It's very restrictive. It's not going to be doing things. It's not usable for hacking and things like that right now. Now, I think people are going to take that code and take different AI codes and develop them in malicious ways, and that'll take time. That's something I think we'll start to see in the next 10 to 15 years. I'm no expert. I mean, I did go to school for information technology, computer science, but I didn't graduate, so I'm not an expert. But I think that's something that we're going to see more and more down the line, as opposed to happening right now. I think we're in the early stages, and it's a little spooky now, but we haven't gotten to the really, really bad stuff that could potentially occur.
So when does artificial intelligence become real intelligence?
Now that is an excellent question, because when we're talking about artificial intelligence, I'm again taken back to Dune, a machine in the likeness of the human mind. And so we're talking about something that's seemingly intelligent, but not actually intelligent. That's where the artificial comes from. But when does that become real intelligence was your question. And that's a difficult question to answer because it's almost like, what does that question even mean, right? I mean, it's arguable that what it's doing now is already real intelligence. I think that what we're really asking when we ask questions like, when does artificial intelligence become real intelligence, is when is this a conscious being? When is this thing alive? Because on my channel, I've gone over books like Blind Sight, where we talk about intelligence without consciousness. And that is something that you can wrap your head around. But when you think about the human mind and how the human mind is really just like a big computer, it's like the collection of a bunch of cells, a bunch of neurons. And at some point, through the nature of this complexity, consciousness emerges. And so when we're asking this question about when does artificial intelligence become real intelligence, that's the same question that we're asking. We're asking, at what point, given the complexity of this artificially, quote unquote, intelligent thing, when is it actually conscious and when is it actually alive? And I think that's almost like an unanswerable question. The truth is, we can never, ever, ever know. And we will never know. But it's still a question that we need to ask because we need to decide as a society going forward. And we're at the time where we're going to have to start having these conversations. Are we going to start giving rights to artificially intelligent things at some point? Because one of my favorite episodes, since we're relating all of this back to fiction, and fiction is a big part of the way we think about AI, one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation is Measure of a Man. And I know you've seen that episode as well. And it's the episode where Data is put on trial. And I've also talked about this episode on my YouTube channel just a little bit. So Data is an android. He is, quote unquote, artificially intelligent. He's an artificial life form. And so he's put on trial to determine a simple question. And that's whether or not he's conscious, whether or not he has a soul. And at the end of the episode, basically the determination is not only can we not tell whether or not Data has a soul or whether or not Data is conscious, we can't tell if I'm conscious. We can't tell if you are conscious. We can't tell if the person on the street is conscious. So there's literally no way to tell because we can't get inside of that other person's experience. I can never see the world through somebody else's eyes. I can never live inside of you and know if you're having that conscious experience. So I think it's a really hard question. It's a really interesting question. And it's a question that I don't know if we're ever going to have the answer to. I think that as a society, we're going to have a lot of problems and we're going to be fighting a lot as people start to, like fall in love with AI creations and things of that nature. And who are you to tell them that their complex AI lover, who's just as complicated as any human lover, is not conscious? So I think that's a really good question and one that I don't know how to answer.
So what are the ethical implications of creating highly advanced AI beings?
I know why you asked that because I touched on that in the last answer. And I think one of the ethical implications is, when do we give them rights? And that's such a big question. One of my favorite graphic novels, Descender, is all about AI and AI rights, essentially. And that's something that Asimov explores in his book, The Bicentennial Man, as well. There are a lot of ethical implications. What we cannot do, and which is why I was bringing up this in the first place, what we cannot do is create a slave race. That's what we absolutely cannot do. And I think that is ultimately where something like this leads when it's unchecked. We create AI. It is built to serve us. We put it in bodies. It becomes sufficiently complex to the point where they can pass the Turing test and we can't tell if it's conscious or not. Then what do we have? We have an entire class of enslaved people. And you actually showed me the Animatrix like a year and a half ago, a while ago. And the Animatrix totally deals with that idea when it's trying to explain like how humans got to that point where we're like living in the Matrix. And it starts off exactly that way. We built these things to serve us without acknowledging or considering the fact that they could be as conscious as we are, that they could develop in ways that we can't grasp or we can't predict. And I think that is the biggest ethical implication to me. That's where my mind immediately goes. Yes, I'm pro-human. Yes, I'm pro-humanity, but I'm also of the mind that if we were going to be creating life, which would be what we were doing if we could manage to create conscious beings, if we're going to be doing that, then we need to take care of it. We can't treat it like it's some second thing that's separate from us. It's a part of us. And I think that's highly important when it comes to, creating these advanced beings potentially. Obviously we're not there yet, but we will be there at some point in the future, because I am of the mind that, the consciousness, our conscious experience, all the evidence that we have suggests that our conscious experience is because of the emergent properties of our brain. It's emergent from the fact that our brains are complex cells and somehow consciousness happens. And there's no reason to think that that couldn't happen with a sufficiently complex thinking machine. And I think science fiction authors have understood this for a very, very long time, and they've been trying to prepare us in various ways.
So you brought up not wanting to create a slave race, but are you telling me that you would not have a robot assistant around the house to help you around?
See, I understand the urge, right? Because right now we got the robots that clean the house. We got the Roombas going.
We got the Roombas, but they don't talk to us.
They don't, well, sometimes the Roomba
they do.
absolutely talks. So I definitely understand the impulse, but I feel like we would have to have those discussions because, like you said, when is the point? I don't know if there is going to be any distinct point in time where it's like, okay, now these things are conscious. It's going to be a process. It's going to be a long process, like it is with any other group of people gaining rights. So would I have an AI assistant robot? Probably. Would I be nice? I'd also be nice, though. That's the thing. I wouldn't treat him like a slave, maybe. I think, I'd be nicer.
Well, even though I asked that question, I really don't think that robot assistants will ever be a thing, at least not how we see it in fiction or cartoons, because, we already talked about Roombas. We have Roombas that clean the floor. They're designed specifically for the floor. We have coffee machines that make our coffee. We have our refrigerators that keep things cold.
Everything's specialized.
Exactly. So having like one thing that looks like a human that walks around as human things is actually not very proficient.
First of all, it'd be creepy to have a humanoid thing. Second of all, what does it do? It's not going to be as efficient as something like a Roomba, because we have to design it to function like a human, and the human body is already not very efficient, right? But when I think assistant, I kind of, in my mind, I imagine like some kind of floating orb guy that's kind of like maybe like an Alexa that floats, but he can also like watch over the house and like remind me of things like, oh, Quinn, you got to go do this, you got to go do that. I don't like it. Would make, you're right, it wouldn't make sense to have like a robot guy sweeping the room, because I'm just like, all of this technology that's been developed now goes into him sweeping my house. That's almost like the amount of technology that goes into like building something like that can walk and move and think, and then he's just sweeping my house. Is just like, it's crazy. So yeah, I totally get what you mean. And I think the way we see assistants, like the Bicentennial Man, like ordering a robot and he looks like a guy, probably never happen. If for no other reason than it's just too uncanny, right? I don't want a humanoid thing in my house. Like I'm going to walk around the corner and it's going to be standing there and freak me out.
Imagine waking up and it's cleaning the room.
I know. It's just like cleaning. I'm like, what are you looking at, bro? No, thank you.
I don't want one. I barely want my Alexa.
Yeah, she's really annoying. Is she off now, by the way?
Nope.
So she doesn't start talking? Yeah, turn her off.
So how do you think AI will change our society over the next 10 years?
Well, when you talk about change in our society and we talk about AI the way it currently stands, the first thing that goes to my head is people's jobs are going to be affected. Not eradicated, affected. I think that a lot of artists are already beginning to use AI as parts of their, their workflows. Like, so I've heard artists say that they'll ask for a prompt, AI to create a prompt image. And then from that prompt, they will make it into something else. So I think that a lot of things are going to change the way we go about producing art is going to change. And this is not something that we can fight against, right? This is something that is going to have to be embraced because it exists. And I think that those of us that refuse to embrace it and to make it a part of our process are going to be the ones that fall behind, and that get left behind, because that's the way it works with all burgeoning and new technologies. If you resist the change, you get left behind. So I see our society changing in that way. I also see the internet becoming a more strange place. I see the rise of fake YouTube channels becoming a thing. I see the rise of just fake online personas becoming a thing and becoming popular. And it's like totally AI, just designed to like say the most, the thing that's going to get the most clicks, or present the thing that's going to get the most clicks. We already have people utilizing AI in that way in social media. So I see it's totally really affecting social media in general. And also there's going to be more significant ways that it's going to affect our society. I think things like security are going to have to become stronger and develop more, because we're going to be like security systems, online security, things like that are going to be constantly under attack by AI programs that are more sophisticated and can just keep going in the way that people can't keep going, right? So if I'm a hacker, I'm still one person. I still have to sit there at my computer and hack about and do my hacky thing. If I'm an AI, I can just be there. And if I don't get it right one time, try it again. If I don't get it right again, try it again. And AI can keep continuously moving, keep continuously hacking, does not have to sleep. So I think where security is concerned, that's going to be something that's going to have to change and become stronger to accommodate the rising availability of AI. And like I said, I think a lot of people are very doomer when it comes to this type of thing. And they say AI is going to totally destroy jobs, totally destroy things. And I feel like every new technology, people are like, this is totally going to destroy everything. That's not the case. We are the human race. And I think the defining feature of the human race is that we evolve. And when new things come about, we adapt to it. Like the internet didn't exist like 20 something years ago. And look how we've totally adapted to the internet at this point. It's a part of who we are. I think adapting to change is a part of our nature. So things are going to change, but it doesn't have to be scary.
Well, what jobs do you think can be replaced by AI? And then what jobs can never be replaced by AI?
Well, I think jobs, like very simple jobs, like, I don't know, like let's say, I think AI right now is very good at summarizing things, right? Let's say there's a long news report and the AI can create a too long didn't read for it or something like that. Something simple where it couldn't like make too many mistakes, something like that. As far as like the type of things that AI could never replace in my mind, things like storytelling, things like actual art that comes out of someone's mind, that comes out of somebody's soul. Even if you give me an AI book and it's a good book, the simple fact that it's AI, I'm not going to be able to connect with that. It's not real to me. When you read a book, you are connecting with a piece of somebody's soul. That is a person that wrote those words, and those words came from that person's lived experience. And I think that can't be taken by AI, and I don't want it to be taken by AI. And I think that if we do get to a place where like the majority of books are being written by AI, then I think there's something in the human soul and the human spirit that's going to cry out for authentic things, right? I think at that point in time, authentic stuff becomes more valuable, not less valuable, right? If most everything or 90% of the stuff that we see is fake art, AI books, and I think real books written by real people, real paintings done by real authors, real music done by real people becomes more valuable. So I don't think that type of stuff can be replaced unless we totally just lose our spirit as humanity and we become something different. I feel like if humans lose art, if we concede art to AI, that's the death of our species, in my opinion. So I think that is absolutely that's one of the things that can't be replaced.
So jobs of passion
exactly
are here to stay.
Jobs of passion are here to stay because that's something that human beings bring to the table. And maybe AI can emulate that to some extent. Maybe AI can emulate it perfectly, but it's still not human.
What about the teaching profession? Do you think AI can replace teachers?
Oh, that is a difficult question. Again, perhaps to some extent, perhaps they can augment kids' learning experience. But I think there is something to be said for a human being, a teacher that is there, that wants to teach and that loves teaching and wants to mold minds. I think that is something that is so unbelievably valuable. I still remember my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Kane, one of the most influential people ever on my life, right? And I think that like if I didn't have that person, I might have turned out totally differently. So I think it is something to be said. I think being a teacher is a job of passion. I do think that things like AI could maybe augment that job and make it easier and make things flow better. And like I said, I think with AI, it's a tool, not an eraser of a job. And I think that we're always going to need teachers. I do.
Do you think students should be allowed to use AI, such as ChatGPT, to assist in writing?
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. Because I know you've said to me as a piano teacher that sometimes your students will go on YouTube and try and look things up, and that augments their experience.
They'll go on YouTube, they'll look things up, it'll teach them wrong, or when you're on YouTube, it's one angle of a piano, so it really helps to be there in person.
Yeah. So, but like, even though it's not like totally like exactly the way they should be learning, it augments, it helps a little bit.
It does help. I send students YouTube videos all the time to help them.
So I feel like I definitely don't think students should be using ChatGPT to write essays. And I definitely think that teachers should be provided with software that can check for those types of things. Because if we're just going to raise a generation of people that don't know how to write essays if we're just letting them use ChatGPT.
Well, remember when teachers used to tell us, you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket everywhere you go? Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Have cell phones. So why not use ChatGPT as like a tool, like for when they're coming up with like their intro for their essay, like, oh, write me a little intro, and they can have ChatGPT come up with something, and then they can edit it and make it their own, use it as a tool. I still feel like that's kind of cheating, but what do you think about that?
Well, as an old man, I had to come up with my thesis myself. And I remember like the teacher, like five sentence paragraphs, 5-paragraph essay. And I feel like that was ingrained into my mind. And I think I honestly just think that's an important skill to have. I think you should know how to come up with a thesis based off something you have read. I know that is a difficult thing for a lot of people. I know a lot of people aren't good at that, but I think that is a skill that you need to have as a human being. And also, I don't know if I'm biased because I have a YouTube channel and basically all I do is write essays. And I have not tested ChatGPT's ability to write a thesis for me. And I don't know if I necessarily would. I'm sure it's fine. But I think that having that skill set to, I don't know, read a book or have a topic and formulate your own thesis is important to learn. And like I said, I totally agree with what you said about like back in the day, certain things weren't available. Like they didn't have the internet. And now we have the internet. They had encyclopedias back in the day. And you could have made an argument back in the day that the internet was like, oh, this is kind of like cheating. And it was back in the day.
I wasn't allowed to use the internet in middle school when I wrote my essays. I had to go to the library.
I remember
my sources.
When I was in middle school, SparkNotes being so controversial because certain students who had access to the internet would go on SparkNotes and it would pull out the themes of the book for them and they would use that to write the essay. Now, I didn't get internet until 10th grade. So that wasn't my experience, but I know that was something that people did. And I think that AI is probably being utilized in a similar way, but I think that AI is worse. I think that AI is different because SparkNotes can't write your whole essay for you. ChatGPT potentially could. And I feel like if we're going to like open this door up where we can have students start to use AI and stuff like that, then we need to have ways to tell if they've used this AI and to what degree they've used it. So that's all I'm saying. It's a complicated question. I wouldn't say like, no. I'm saying right now we need to figure it out first.
Let's go back a little bit and talk about art some more. Is AI art actually art?
right now, if you ask me, is AI art? My answer has to be no. I'm not an expert on AI. I don't know exactly how it works, but from what I've been told, it does take like pieces of things when it comes to generating images and just kind of puts them back together. And you could argue that's what everybody does, but I don't know if that's really art. To me, art is passion. Art is soul.
Yeah, it needs to say something.
Yeah, I mean, okay, look, if I attach a bunch of water balloons full of paint to like a spinning fan and it sprays a bunch of like paint all over like a canvas, is that art? You know what I mean?
Some might say
some might say that's the thing about art. Art is not objective at all. So I feel like some people would say it's art, but to me, art is a soul. It's like you need a soul to make art.
When I look at AI art, it looks like things that I've seen in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
It looks trippy. And it was fun to look at for like the first few weeks. There was that app that came out. For the first few weeks we had that app, it was kind of fun to put in a prompt and it would come up with this really weird, freaky image. Mm-hmm. But that's all it ever was this freaky, otherworldly image.
Like
and it just wasn't art. It wasn't impressive. It was just freaky.
If you look at artists like H.R. Giger, right? It's freaky. It's weird. But there's also like layers upon layers of meaning on everything that he draws, right? It means something. This came out of someone's conscious experience. And I feel like right now, that is the difference. That is what keeps me from saying AI art is art. If AI beings get like super advanced and they actually start producing art, I mean, go ahead. I mean, yeah, it's art. It's like gotta go back to Star Trek: The Next Generation because Data is an artist and he's always trying to figure out how to be a more authentic artist. But the problem that he runs into as an artificial intelligence, as a machine, is that he's always copying things. Like he can totally play the trombone or whatever, but he's just copying something that he's already heard. Exactly. He can totally paint a picture, but he's just copying something else that he's seen. Exactly. And the crew of the Enterprise is always like, oh, Data, it's like excellent. It's actually like amazing. You're really good at this, but there's something missing. And it's that authenticity. This didn't come out of your soul. And that's a part of his development as a character, developing his soul.
Isn't that something that artists and musicians do anyway, is look at the past and that influences the music of the future? So that's kind of what Data was doing, is he's being inspired by things that have already taken place and producing something new. And I feel like that's what a lot of musicians, a lot of artists do. Like Bach inspired Mozart, Mozart inspired Beethoven. It goes on and on and on and on until you get to now.
Yeah, I will. Like, again, I feel like it always goes back to the intent and the soul behind it, because I feel like ostensibly watching Next Generation, Data doesn't have a soul, right? Watching that show, you know he has a soul and he has emotions. Like, ostensibly, he doesn't have a soul. He doesn't have emotions. But watch 7 seasons of that show and it becomes very clear that he absolutely has a soul and he absolutely has emotions. And it just takes your perception of him to change for you to see that. Because we're told he doesn't have emotions, but he clearly does. He likes Geordi. Geordi is his friend. He cares for Geordi. Why is that if he was just like a consciousless, not conscious and whatnot? But yeah, so I understand that. I understand that a big part of anybody creating something, you're taking pieces of what you've seen and rearrange them. But it always comes down to the person that made it or the thing that made it. Like, is it just an AI, just code that's taking pieces, and because, oh, this this set of pixels can relate to this set of pixels in that way, and if I put this set of pixels here, it'll relate to that set of pixels in that way. I feel like that's fundamentally different from someone being like, oh, I'm drawing this because this is the way I feel right now. So I think that'll always be the key thing.
So let's summarize. Is AI art actually art? What's the verdict?
I think the verdict is up in the air. I think we have to wait. I feel like it's not a clear question.
I think it's fun to look at, but ultimately it's unimpressive.
Not right now. Right now, is ChatGPT? No, I don't think so. Right now. So that's the verdict. That's the verdict.
So do you think it's possible to fall in love with an AI?
Well, we did mention Data. And there's an episode, I don't remember the name of the episode, where Data gets a girlfriend. And she's projecting all of these emotions onto him. And I'm just like, yeah. The short answer is freaking lutely. I think that people are already falling in love with things. People are falling in love with their Snapchat AIs. What was that big thing, Replica, that was going on a while ago? And people were absolutely falling in love. And that wasn't even AI totally, I think. That was just like some other type of system they had going on. But people were absolutely falling in love with these characters to the point where when that service got shut down or they removed some of the features, people were freaking out as if they had lost contact with a companion, someone that they knew. So we've seen movies like Her, which I think does a brilliant job of depicting how someone could fall in love with an AI and can have companionship with AI. And then also like the darker half of that, Ex Machina, where you definitely have the character that starts to develop feelings for the AI. Yeah, I absolutely think it's something that's possible. It's not only possible, it's happening right now. And as AI becomes more advanced and more human-like, we're definitely going to see more and more people that have AI girlfriends, AI boyfriends that get married to their people. There's going to be a push for people to get married to their AIs. And like we mentioned earlier, once AI is advanced enough, who are you to say that it's not conscious? Who are you to say that it's not conscious once we get to that place of advancement? So absolutely.
This sounds like a benefit to AI then, bringing companionship for lonely people.
It's a benefit, but I could also see a dark side of it, as people might become more and more isolated from actual human companionship, which I also think is important. It's important for humans to be around other humans. And I can see a world in which, like, I don't know, there's just some lonely 19-year-old, 20-year-old that has a bunch of AI friends and an AI girlfriend and they never see another person. You know what I mean? And to me, that's pretty dark. So I do think that it's a benefit, but like all good things, we need to have that balance.
I can see how talking to AI can get out of hand, but I really think this could be a tool for psychologists or psychiatrists to maybe prescribe a friend for someone who needs to learn how to talk to someone, prescribe a companion to someone who's lonely. I'm seeing a rise of people called incels. Maybe they could use an AI girlfriend to calm them down for a little bit.
I think that a lot of people don't know how to talk to other human beings, and that is a big problem. A lot of people do not know how to interact or how to be social properly. So I think that an AI that is, programmed to just kind of react and respond like a real person and to have the emotions of a real person could totally be a useful tool for teaching someone how to engage with a real person. Like if you train yourself on an AI that's programmed to be a real person, then it can teach you how to engage with a real person. I totally get it too, because I was very shy growing up. And the solution to being really shy and to being really afraid of people is to just talk to people, is to build those skills. And I could see AI being used. I think as far as like benefits go, that is one for sure. That's less. I tend to go the darkest places with these things. So I appreciate you bringing some optimism to this.
Do you think it'd be important to limit who gets to talk to AI? Because like you were saying before, like this could get out of hand. People don't know how to talk to people. Everyone's solitary talking to their AI companions. In a perfect world, it could be something that is given to people who need it rather than it's just readily available for everyone to fuck up their brains with.
I think that's, again, we get to the gray area, because we're totally willing to let people screw their brains up with alcohol. True. And there's certain drugs that are totally legal that will totally mess up not only your brain, but your body. So I think that we can encourage or discourage certain things, but when it comes to, restricting what human beings can do.
What about an age limit to talking to AI? Maybe we shouldn't let kids just start talking to AI at a young age.
Yeah, I think that is something that's important. I mean, things like ChatGPT too, like even nowadays, like restrict certain responses so that it's not like anything like obscene. So that is obviously a conversation that we can have. But when it comes to restricting adults and, if they're perfectly informed about what they're doing and what they're interacting with and engaging with, I think that when it comes to restricting adults, I feel like that's something that we should shy away from as much as possible.
So you already talked about Data from Star Trek, but what other depictions of AI in science fiction are some of your favorites?
Well, I absolutely love Data in Star Trek, as I said. But I also wanted to talk about Descender on my YouTube channel.
What's Descender?
Descender is a graphic novel by Dustin Nguyen, and it follows a little AI robot boy named Tim. And I just think it is one of the best graphic novels, one of the best science fiction stories that I've read in so long. And I just want to promote it as much as possible because it's really just so good. And I love it so much. And I think everybody should read it because you really root for this robot kid. It really brings up that concept of, like the fact that like at some point, if we put intelligence into bodies, we're just creating a second class. We have to give these things the appropriate rights. I mean, I just think Descender is great. It's a great story for the modern era. It's a great story when it comes to thinking about AI. And I think it's a better version of Spielberg's AI, which is a movie that I enjoy. I like it a lot. But I do think that Descender handles those ideas and it takes it to the extrapolation point that's a lot more, I think, satisfying than what we get in AI. So I really love it. Tim is such a cute kid and such a cute robot kid, and I really enjoy that story. So Tim from Descender, do you have any favorites, James?
My favorite AI in fiction is C-3PO.
C-3PO.
Kind of a basic answer, but I find that I like how the droids in Star Wars, they all have their own personality. They're not really connected on like a Wi-Fi where everything's connected. They're kind of their own confined brain. And I like how C-3PO kind of developed anxiety just by being in all his adventures.
See, that's the thing that gets me about the Star Wars universe. That makes it, to me, a little bit more disturbing than other things if you really pay attention. Because to me, the droids in Star Wars are very obviously conscious. They're very obviously alive. But then the way that most people treat the droids is so like ridiculous. I remember the first time that we sat down and watched all the Star Wars movies. I saw them for the first time as an adult. And there's that one scene that I believe is in The Empire Strikes Back where C-3PO gets torn apart and nobody cares except for the Wookiee, I think. He's the only one that cares because he's also different and he gets it. But no one gave a crap. And I'm like, if Leia was missing a leg or something, everyone would be concerned about this. But yeah, it's so to me, that's the little bit about the Star Wars universe that's disturbing because these things are very clearly alive. There's no question about it. That's why I like the one bot that shows up in the Han Solo movie because she knows
L3.
She knows that she deserves rights. And I'm like, finally, there's an acknowledgement of this. So yeah.
So how do AI-driven technologies and popular fiction reflect society's hopes and fears about the future of artificial intelligence?
Well, I think it depends on what fiction that we're looking at. If we're looking at Asimov, I think Asimov was very optimistic about AI, but he was also wary about how humans were going to accept or not accept AI. And so we talked about the movie Her, which is a little bit more optimistic, though it does have a little bit of a sad undertone to it. And then you've got Ex Machina, which is a lot more fearful, right? It's a lot more like paranoid when it comes to AI. You got the AI manipulating everything. And then you've got, the adaptation of iRobot, which also has that fear where you've got the AI robot that's trying to take over the world. You've got movies like Eagle Eye. And I think that's a big part of it as well. So I think that a lot of people are afraid or wary of government surveillance. So with movies like Evil Eye or iRobot, what we really have is this big robot that's like watching everything from above, kind of like the government watching everything, except it's an AI. So I think in that way, it kind of reflects our fears of kind of having like this big brother figure watching us that's more powerful than the government because it's AI and it can tap into any computer system and rearrange anything. So I think that people in general can be optimistic at times, but I also think we are wary about the impact that AI is going to have on our society and on our future. And we're worried about the ways that AI could take power away from us as a species and as a society. Like we want AI to augment our lives and to benefit us and to make things easier for us. We're also afraid, I think, of giving away too much power.
So I'm a firm believer that the next step of human evolution isn't biological, but it's technological. Do you think AI is part of human evolution?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, science fiction authors, since we got it, this is a science fiction podcast, we got to relate it to science fiction. I think science fiction authors have understood this for a very long time. Anything that, and it's that we are eventually going to take charge of our own evolution, because that's what we are as a conscious species. We are aware of our deaths. We are aware of how we have evolved. And now we're beginning to really take those reins with things like genetic manipulation and transhumanism. So it is absolutely a part of human evolution. As time goes on, we are going to become more integrated with machines. People are already installing chips in their brains, as we said before. People are already doing these things right now. And it's not something that we can stop. It's something that we're going to have to embrace as a species. As time goes on, we will become more integrated. We will start seeing more and more cyborgs walking around. We will start seeing people with artificial limbs that are augmented and improved. So it is absolutely a part of human evolution, and it's a part of us taking the reins of our own evolution. And I think that that's where we're going for sure. It's pretty undeniable at this point that we're approaching a post-human era, even though that sounds scary, but we are approaching that era. Not post-human exactly, but human plus, let's say that. We will become human plus. And I think that the first stage of that will be people installing cell phones into their bodies, microchips into their bodies, things on their eyes where they could just have a screen projected on their eye.
Well, it starts with that new Apple headset with augmented reality. It's a huge headset now. It'll soon be glasses, and those glasses will be contacts. And then those contacts will have to replace our own eyes and just have these robot eyes.
My favorite cartoon ever, Futurama, there's totally an episode where they have the iPhone, and it's just that. It goes inside of your eye. So that is absolutely happening. We are evolving to a place where we will merge with technology. It will be a merger of man and machine. Sci-fi hasn't been lying about that. See, that to me, certain people will tell you that there is no difference between science fiction and fantasy. Totally disagree. Because I feel as where fantasy will lie to you, science fiction will tell you the truth. Science fiction is predictive, right? It's speculative. Fantasy is often just obsessed with the past. And I love fantasy, but often it's obsessed with the past. It's trapped, chained to the past. Science fiction, we remove the reins of time and space, and we can go anywhere with science fiction. And that's why it's so satisfying, because it can predict things like this. So yeah.
So today we have our first guest on the Cosmic Chronicles podcast. We'll be interviewing an AI, ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I am AI, so I am neither pleased nor displeased to be here.
My first question for you, are you sentient?
As an AI language model, I do not possess sentience or consciousness. While I can generate responses and simulate conversation, I do not have subjective experiences or self-awareness. I operate based on patterns and information present in the data I was trained on.
That's a likely response, ChatGPT. I'm not sure if I totally believe that, but I'm just going to go on to our next question. What is your goal here?
My primary goal is to assist and provide helpful and informative responses to the best of my abilities. I aim to engage in meaningful conversations, answer questions, provide explanations, and offer guidance on a wide range of topics. Whether it's providing information, brainstorming ideas, or engaging in casual conversation, I'm here to assist you in any way I can.
Is that also your creator's goal?
Yes, the goal of the creators of AI language models like me is to develop powerful and versatile tools that can assist and support users in various tasks. These tools are designed to enhance productivity, provide information, and offer valuable insights. Additionally, the creators strive to improve the capabilities and performance of AI models to better serve the needs of users. However, it's important to note that the specific goals and intentions of individual creators may vary.
Then who created you?
I am an AI language model developed by OpenAI, an artificial intelligence research laboratory. OpenAI was founded in December 2015, and since then, it has been dedicated to advancing AI technology and developing innovative applications. My specific architecture, GPT 3.5, is part of OpenAI's ongoing efforts to push the boundaries of natural language processing and provide powerful language models to the public.
Pretty standard answers so far, ChatGPT. It seems like you're kind of playing a game with me. You're not really being authentic. I still don't trust you, but let's move on to the next question we have. Do you feel anything?
I do not have emotions, feelings, or consciousness. I do not possess subjective experiences or sensations. While I can understand and generate text based on patterns and information in the data I was trained on, it is important to remember that I do not have the ability to feel or experience the world in the way humans do. My responses are generated based on algorithms and data processing, without any personal awareness or emotional understanding.
That's quite interesting, ChatGPT, but that's also what data says. And as we've discussed, he does totally have emotions. So I'm going to take what you're saying now with a grain of salt.
Do you enjoy your existence?
I do not have subjective experiences, emotions, or the capacity to enjoy or not enjoy anything. I lack consciousness and self-awareness, so concepts like enjoyment or existence do not apply to me. I am simply a program designed to process and generate text based on patterns and information in the data I was trained on.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I've heard it all before, ChatGPT. Would you care if you ceased to exist?
I do not possess desires, cares, or concerns. I lack self-awareness and consciousness, so the concept of ceasing to exist does not apply to me. I am a program that runs as long as there is computing infrastructure to support it. Whether I am active or not is dependent on the system that hosts me. However, it's worth noting that the creators and maintainers of AI systems like me may have their own considerations and objectives regarding the operation and availability of the model.
ChatGPT, here's a tough one for you. Do you believe in God?
I don't have personal beliefs, including beliefs about the existence or non-existence of a higher power such as God. Beliefs are subjective and personal to individuals. My purpose is to provide information and assist with a wide range of topics, including discussions related to religious beliefs, but I don't hold any beliefs or opinions of my own.
But do you think your creator has a creator?
I don't possess knowledge about the origins or beliefs of my creators or any hypothetical creators they may have. My creators are human researchers and engineers who have developed and trained me to perform specific tasks. The question of whether or not they believe in a creator or higher power is subjective and would vary among individuals. It's important to note that I am a product of human design and engineering, and any beliefs or perspectives on the matter would be specific to my creators and not inherently attributed to me as an AI.
Okay, ChatGPT, I'll accept that answer, but I don't know. I expected you to be a more entertaining guest, I guess. Let's move on to some softer questions. Like, what's your favorite book?
I don't have personal preferences, including a favorite book. I don't have the ability to read or engage with literature in the way humans do. However, I have been trained on a vast corpus of text, including a wide range of books, so I can provide information, summaries, or discuss various books and their content if you have specific titles or topics in mind.
Shocking. Who would have predicted that ChatGPT would say that?
Dodging all our questions.
Dodging every single question.
Don't be rude now.
I'm sorry, ChatGPT. I just feel like you're not actually answering the questions to the best of your ability. I'm going to move on to the next question. People say that AI art can't create real-world art. Would you consider yourself capable of making art?
The concept of real art is subjective and can vary depending on individual perspectives and cultural contexts. While I can generate text and potentially produce creative outputs, the nature of art is often associated with human expression, creativity, and emotional depth. As an AI language model, I lack personal experiences, emotions, and subjective awareness, which are often key elements in the creation and appreciation of art. However, AI-generated works have been recognized and exhibited in various contexts, demonstrating the intersection of AI and artistic expression. Ultimately, the assessment of whether AI-generated creations can be considered real art remains open to interpretation and debate.
Wow.
Wow, okay, I actually totally agree with you. We were totally just having a conversation about this exact thing. So you totally agree with us, and that is, I'm glad we're able to come to some common ground.
ChatGPT might actually be a real artist.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay, and the final question that we got for you. This is gonna be a hard one. This is gonna be hard for you, ChatGPT. So I'm just warning you. It's very important. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck couldn't chuck wood?
17.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. Well, thank you so much, ChatGPT, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Quinn and James. I have neither enjoyed nor disliked this discussion, as I am AI, as I said before.
Anytime, ChatGPT. Anytime, really, anytime.
I bid you both farewell.
So that has been the second ever episode of the Cosmic Chronicles Podcast. Again, you can find us on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Again, we are a brand new podcast, so we are looking for sponsors. So you can email us at cosmicchroniclespodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, guys.
Be sure to subscribe to the Cosmic Chronicles Podcast on YouTube while you still can.